I started my new garden walk yesterday and I'm having to use this camera sideways, so you won't see much of me as I try it, because I've found, took it in to show somebody, and they said it's a cable, so as long as I have the screen like this, so I can have it this way, and I can't see what I'm looking at all. But if I flip it back so it's side on, I know you probably don't understand, so please just take it as a means of, I'm sorry if I get a bit weird, so because I can't actually see what I'm filming. So that's why this is my new walk in my garden that I started yesterday, and because of this neat piece of driftwood that I'm going to make a sculpture out of. But you can see God's already made a pretty blooming good one without my work. Hey Rex, say hello to the people. Can you see Rex? Okay, well, first of all, I need to apologise and give an explanation of my sort of disgusting behaviour. Video that I uploaded actually sort of announcing the time of the recompense of the Lord being upon us. While I absolutely know that that's true, I used a swear word which I shouldn't have, but praise the Lord, he has been speaking to me since then, because I was just, I just said to my husband, because neither of us used to swear, but these days we do, and I asked why, and he just thought it was just all the frustrations. That's how we feel, just so frustrated, and that's exactly how it is. And I was then shown, the prophets. I saw a video of John Paul Jackson. I don't know if you all know him in America, I'm sure you do, but a more charming man it would be hard to find. But he recalled how he went to a church and they all said, oh, how wonderful it would be to have him in the church, a prophet like him in the church. And he recounted the time of his wife on the sitting on the bed crying, saying, oh, you're not going to get us kicked out of another church, are you? Who could even imagine that he could? And he had the most wonderful father, and and even though he was very poor, he recounts his father being just the most wonderful man. Well, I don't need to go into my past, many of you know it, but I was an orphan at 2, and I can see now, as this my stepsister, my foster sister told me then, I've actually been reliving what I went through then, because my father was my mother had already left when I was about, must be 2, and my brother was like a year, couple of months after that, and then and because she'd got pregnant to another man, and so my father was left with us, and he had to sort of find, some way of looking after us and work at the same time. But then after that, short story, he got killed. He got killed 6 months later, and I was in a foster home already by then, and separated from my brother, and so I was pretty devastated. And my foster sister sort of gave the story. She recounted how I would sit behind the couch and spit, be reading my books and be spitting into the pages. And when I think of it now, it's actually a pretty good analogy of my life that I have spent, spitting into the pages, trying to get people, read my book, look at my signs, please look. Anytime I find anything wonderful, I just have to share it, and that's just the way God made me. And when I think of the other prophets, I understood, God gave me a dream, and in the dream, which one was it? There was one that I was running through the house, and I'll have to find that one because there'll be something to explain it first, but that there was one up in the sky with a blowtorch who was, attacking my house with this blowtorch. So where is that one there? There it is here. There was a first of all, oh right, so there's, I can see the first one. There was a blowtorch in the lower sky above me, threatening to torch the building I was in if I didn't take one of the three options it was giving me. I ran away from it through to the last rooms of the building to escape it. Well, I also found out another, I won't say that out loud, but this is how it's been to me. The woman in the church, a certain person's name means noisy, yes. And so a rich woman wearing a lovely cream-coloured coat was in front of me when I noticed blood on the back where it opened. I went to ask her to stand still so I could clean it off for her, but her husband did not want me to do it and said, "I can't give you any money." He was obviously very rich and very proud, and I knew he had plenty of money to spare, but I said, "I don't want your money," and I proceeded to clean the menses off because it was period blood. But now, which of course represents her uncleanness, but now it had rolled down the seam of the split further, and I could also see it was now on her shoulder, as I had a much bigger job. He called me Rhonda as he resigned himself to letting me clean his wife's coat. I said, "My name's not Rhonda, it's Christine." So I reckoned his wife must have been Rhonda, but she said that her name was Christine also. Okay, so then there was a blowtorch in the lower sky above me, threatening to torch the building if I didn't. So that's obviously talking, about sort of what I've been through, the persecutions, and some of, you have no idea, what, some of you do, because of course I've, put pieces in, but to actually live it, and especially considering when I first came to the Lord, the miracles and the promises were just so immense, that I just couldn't believe it when it seemed like he took it all away and just crushed me. And of course, so the Lord's just shown me, that this is the way of the prophets, my dear, and you are the handmaid of the Lord. And, I thought of Noah, and I also thought of a prophecy that some dear friends, or ministers actually, who were ministering to me years ago, told me, and that was the words at the end of Job were very pertinent to me. And of course that's where Job, and then God tells Job, after God tells Job's friends, no, you're wrong, so Job has to say all this stuff, he has to say all this stuff, and of course it's only those trials that make him say that stuff. And with me, especially like with Noah, I also read the account of Noah. The first thing he did when he got out of the ark was go and build a vineyard, and some good Christian person, of course, said, "Oh, it wouldn't have been a vineyard, because, it meant planting his seed, But of course, Noah liked to have a drink. We know about Noah, so, and it's a form of Dutch courage. I'm not as brave as I look, and basically the things that I've had to say to people, I've only been able to say after I've had a wine or two, and it's the only time the emotions come up strong enough. And I could say the same thing, with my paintings, that the everything that I do, will cause offence to somebody, the church, and, but I mean, look at her, isn't she? Well, to me, she's beautiful, and that's the best thing I can do. I'm so proud of my drawings. Much more so than my paintings. My paintings are all just sort of, they're prophecy and they're kind of quaint and weird. And oh, by the way, so this just gives you an example. So here, what have we got here? Oh, okay, so you've got the side of my face. So this here, if you belong to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world. That is why I have chosen you from it. If they persecuted me, they will persecute you also. And I've really had a lot of persecution. But I can see that is just the way, the way it has to be, because without that being, put into that tight place, you're not going to fight out. You're not going to say anything. And when I realise now what I have to say, it's going to get, I'm going to have to be much stronger. This is my first nude, Sarah, and You know, just like with my book, when I did her, she was such an accident. You know, I was stuck with the worst possible, place in the group, to sit at. I was practically sitting up on top of someone's shoulder when I drew this model, but I got this drawing and it was the best thing I ever did. I couldn't believe it, but my sadness was that, like with my book, I never had anyone, my peers, I had no daddy or mummy to show and say, look what I did. So sorry about the tears, but now, Jesus is just the same. And this is what I came to in my book the other day. Okay, can you read it? Whoops, the sun's too bright in here right now. So I realised, as I'm reading, this is my 180-year-old Bible, and I was reading here when it says in Psalm 110, I hate those numerals, it says, the Lord said unto my Lord, sit at my right hand until I make thine enemies thy footstool. Okay, the Lord shall send the rod of thy strength out of Zion. Rule thou in the midst of thine enemies. Thy people shall be willing in the day of thy power. In the beauties of holiness from the womb of the morning, thou hast the dew of thy youth. The Lord hath sworn and will not repent. Thou art a priest for ever after the order of Melchizedek. The Lord at thy right hand shall strike through kings. In the day of his wrath, he shall judge among the heathens. He shall fill the places with the dead bodies. He shall wound the heads over many countries. Listen to that. He shall wound the heads over many countries. What is happening, guys? He shall drink of the brook in the way. Therefore shall he lift up the head. But what really struck me here, okay, so I hope just saying these words is not going to get me in trouble, because that's the way it is right now. And this is where we're coming to and what I have to talk to you about. Psalm 6, 110. This psalm is pure gospel. It is only and wholly concerning Christ, the Messiah, promised to the fathers and expected by them. It is plain that the JEWs of old, even the worst of them, so understood it. The modern JEWs have endeavoured to pervert it and rob us of it. For when the Lord Jesus proposed a question to the Pharisees upon the first words of the psalm, where he takes it for granted that David in spirit calls Christ his Lord, though he was his son, they chose rather to say nothing, to own themselves gravelled, than to make it a question whether David does indeed speak of Messiah or not. For they freely yield so plain a truth, though they foresee it will turn to their own disgrace. Of him, therefore, no doubt the prophet here speaks of him, and of no other man. Christ is our Redeemer, executes the office of a prophet, of a priest. These we have here in account, old writing. His prophetical office, his priestly office, his kingly office, his estates of humiliation, and ourselves entirely to him, to his grace and government and triumph in him, our prophet, priest, and king, by whom we hope to be ruled and taught and saved forever, as the prophet, priest, and king of the whole church, who shall reign until he has put down all opposing rule, principality, and power, and delivered up the kingdom to God the Father. Okay, so who were these enemies? The unspeakable ones. Who were these people that psalm is speaking of, that King David is speaking of? And we see, I have another, I'll just show you this one. What is happening. Oh, sorry. There we go. Can you see? This is Proverbs 14. A wise woman builds up her house, but with her own hands the foolish one tears hers down. Oh, sorry. And that, is so appropriate now when what we have. I just, Connie just gave me a link, to these women in Colorado just fighting out against what is happening to the children at school with, stings, shall we say, that they are receiving. And I know I have a couple just down the road, that the woman, against the will of her husband, estranged husband, maybe even for spite, gave her child that sting. And so what these men are going through, who, because of the broken marriages. So that I hope you understand. I've been, the house is a mess, but I've been so overwhelmed with what the Lord is showing me that I just haven't been able to put it in words because it just keeps going. I sort of started again with my old sculpture here, which is, just falling to pieces. But she is so profound, because of the dream that I had recently, which was stand up. And I was told it twice, stand up. And if you remember, this is the sign of Tasadi. This shows the ancient Hebrew letter Tasadi, and this is how man was in his ancient form when he had to come before God. And this is how I felt with what happened to me in the church, that I had no way to protect myself, no breasts to make me beautiful, no arms to protect me, no head. I was just utterly powerless. The more that I knelt over here, to pray, the more exposed I was this way, but at the end, God has shown me what this means, that this is actually, even though this was my weakness, this was my strength, because in the end days, the final Tasadi stands up. So you can look that up. Tasadi is Tsaddi, and this is the Hebrew. I haven't got it right. I can't see it right now, so sorry. So God has just been showing me so much, and just the prophetic, nature of my paintings is, just, what can I say, profound. I know it sounds terrible, but that's the way it is. Praise God. I've just uplifted a couple of old videos, very old, because they were predicting this time. It's my rooster giving an account for me, because God, they say God is not slow. Well, certain people have been waiting for the Messiah for 2,000 years, but praise God, God has returned. And I just want to show you, let me just draw a breath, show you another set of incredible revelations that I've had in the last week. And it's all again from this David Flynn collection. What an amazing, amazing guy he was. And like so many of these prophets, he gets taken too soon. And just on that theme again, I would also like to say, concerning John Paul Jackson, and how he died so quick. And am I totally out of... I probably am. You're probably looking right up my nostril, aren't you? Sorry. His last prophecies that, he really feared bringing to the church, they were so awful. But in them, he spoke of Obama and telling the people to pray for Obama, and but afterwards the Lord had shown him that they would try and put a Muslim into the office, and which of course he missed that one, didn't he? Because I hope you all know by now what Obama was, so I liken that also to Kim Clement, mighty prophet who was taken down, God took them home so quickly when they prophesied wrongly, when they had done their time, but then when they, started in the human strength, we all make mistakes, but God would not have his prophet, I believe, continuing in those mistakes. So he took them just as he took Kim Clement. So anyway, this week I had an amazing, I had a vision, and I'm just going to try and take you through, and forgive forgive them. Okay, can you see that? So I won't show you it first. So first of all, it was this. So this was after I did that video. After I did the video in the toilets, when I actually, pronounced, the time of the end, the time of retribution. So we have been through the tribulations, we have been there, and the child has been born, but we're now at the time of the wrath. And just as I had to pronounce that, the same thing happened to me. It did then. I was in town, and it's only when I go to town and things of the past will really trigger me, and I will come home. And the last time I did it, I'll try and look it up. I did it. I actually pronounced the end of the Roman Catholic Church, and I didn't realise it at the time. And the next month, Notre Dame was burnt. So the prophetics, so because I'm in New Zealand, that's why God has to get me, because as it says in the Bible, God will do nothing unless he first shows the prophets. And of course, what is the sense of him showing the prophets if the prophets do not speak? So I spoke that out then. So because with New Zealand it goes out first. So it really doesn't matter who hears it, really, as long as it's been spoken, okay? God is faithful. And that's also, of course, why the Masons do it, because they believe that they are godly. So they always give these messages, via the, news media and all that sort of thing. So if you didn't get it, well, as far as they're concerned, that's your problem. So anyway, I had this amazing vision. Oh golly, it's just so much I can't tell you. And in it was I believed it was London. Okay, can you see that? So here's the map of London. So this was like the very first dream that I did a video of, and I called it Twin Owls, and I've only just re-uploaded it, and but it showed me I was actually flying over the coast of Scotland. I was flying around this area here, and in my vision or dream or whatever, I actually thought I saw it, in real life on the YouTube. And as I was watching Eric Clapton and not Eric, the one that wrote Stairway to Heaven, Jeff Beck, and it is Eric Clapton, isn't it? And I was watching these videos, so I actually thought I saw this picture, and it was London, and it was. And as soon as I saw it, I thought, oh look, it's like the embryo, of a chicken, because I hatch my own chickens, so I know. I thought, and with all these, lines going out, and but then. A day later or so, I was reading this Flynn book, and lo and behold, so I looked it up, and I saw in real life London doesn't look like that. But I came to this page, and that's exactly what it looked like, and that was Paris. And I don't know if many of you understand that what Napoleon was. So Napoleon, it says here, Napoleon wanted to. The date of proclamation of Israel's independence by Napoleon, 1799, oh sorry guys, it's so bright out here, 1799, displays a curious Prisia Sapientia with respect to 2520. It fits the mathematical harmony seen in relationship of the Earth with the Moon as well. Okay, so this is all for you, you number bugs, which of course it's just way out of my reach. I'm total dream baby. But it says here, Napoleon may have realised that his ambitions for Palestine, though not without prophetic significance, were premature in the timeline of God. Although he may, between the sea and the Holy Hill, in his failure to take Acre, Napoleon was still resolute in his plans to create a Jewish state. In February 1807, through the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70, the purpose was set into motion the eventual framework of a Jewish state, with Napoleon's aid from within Europe. However, there were some scholars of the ancient prophets that saw folly in this venture. The former Minister of the Interior, Count Chappelle, wrote in his memoirs, Souvenirs, that he witnessed an argument at dinner he was attending with Napoleon, Cardinal Joseph Fetch, and the Archbishop of Lyons. Okay, how am I? Am I looking good? The Cardinal was Napoleon's maternal uncle, okay? At the time that Napoleon had brought together the Jews, I'm sure many of you have known how some people have said that Napoleon was the first Antichrist. Same thing with the Mr. Hitler guy. Okay, so he's the one that I'm going for. Okay, so I'm just going to prepare you now. And I think if you look at Alex Jones and recent... Oh, blast, did I really say that name? Sorry. There's a soft disclosure going on about what had happened in World War III. And so, the dream that I had last night was just so immense and so profound that I just have to share it and tell you that this is where we're at, what is happening, that those enemies of Christ, they are the ones who are being taken down. Now, I've shown other videos and I'll re-upload those as well. I've had them before to show quite conclusively that I am a JEW. But, of course, anybody that does not be a JEW and the way they want and believes in Christ, that's it. You are given a... You're given a tombstone. You are not one of them. And so in the dream that I had, my daughter had sort of arranged an appointment with me with an old, Jewish man who was he wasn't old, but he was just a sort of a very frail sort of man, but he was some sort of counsellor, and he was very wise, and I think it was to do with my needing EMDR. That's the therapy that I need for compound post-traumatic stress disorder that I have. So I was there, but I was looking through something like a survey, looking through a window, but I wasn't actually in the same room with him. But then, and he was talking about what happened in Germany at that time, and then this other man came in and he sat down in the chair, and as the Jewish man kept on about what happened, this man sitting in the chair spoke up and said, no, that didn't happen that way. It didn't happen that way. And he went in to start to say, how it happened. And the Jewish man just cut him down to shreds and did the whole anti-SEMITIC thing, which is they're so good at, and thanks to the Defamation League. And they have been doing that around the world, and I have shown you, and I probably should have brought it back, should have brought it out actually, because it relates to, I'll see if God's really moving in me today. That's why I'm doing this without doing the house first, because I have just been so overwhelmed that I can't even, and just, exhausted from my dreams, that I just cannot even imagine trying to speak out, what I'm being shown. But it's been going on for such a long time. And here's my, and it's, I had a dream a few years ago now that I was Eva Braun's, I was Eva Braun, that's what I was. I was Eva Braun, so I don't know if you know who she was, but she was the bad man's wife. And even though I feel really, really, insignificant, and the more I learn, the more ignorant I realise I am, and how overwhelming that is, a responsibility to be shooting my mouth off. I don't want to be one of those noisy ones. Even though my first thought would, shut up, Christine, wait till you learn. Through this, so in this book by David Flynn and other things, I keep coming across this. This is Thoth, the Emerald Tablets, and in that one there he compares the words of Thoth to the words of Christ. And Thoth, one of the things Thoth says in here, that to see injustice and not speak is the greatest sin. And in this dream of mine with this man, after he spoke, this Jewish man just cut, because he, cut him down, and he went bright red. The man who had spoken, he went bright red, and he was really sort of shrunk down in shame. And I got up and I said, no, don't let him do that to you. What you're saying is true. Do not ever deny your truth. You must speak the truth. And at that time, then the Jewish man, he just he became like nothing. He became totally broken down and small and crumpled up. And I picked him up. I had to pick him up and take him home because he was absolutely destroyed. And then so I carried him through the streets to his house, and entered his house, and there were a lot of other people, his family there. It was Sabbath, Shabbat, so they were, eating their matzahs. They were, and having a wonderful time, and didn't really like a stranger coming in. I sat in a chair and realised soon that I was sitting in it. I said, is this somebody's chair? And they made it obvious, yes it was. So I went and sat somewhere else. And then they started trying to get me to prove that I was Jewish, and as they always do. And who did I know? And I couldn't remember the name of a woman I knew, and then I remembered Dov, and so I started talking about Dov. This Dov Shalav, a Polish Jewish man I knew, and he was a man. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's sad, but well, his father apparently, actually used to, stand by the oven, shall we say, and but the whole Polish thing's a whole different thing, which I'll probably get into one day too. And you can see exactly what's happening, the same thing going over in the UKRAINE place. Everything that happened then in that war is happening now. And these same people are trying to, destroy this world. And just as they did, with Jesus, because they don't want us ascending to heaven. They want us down here as their slaves, okay, because they are descended. So this is not the true JEWs, but those Ashkenazis. And the ones I've told you about, go look up Janet Osibard, for Cabal. Just please do it. And yes, so I was carrying this man through. I was in the room, and then with them all, and they were, having the Shabbat, pouring them, eating, just so superior. They were so superior, and then as I was. Trying to say, the Jewish people that I knew, and then the scene changed, and I was looking at it was like I was in an aquarium, but I was also looking over the sea and into the sea, and it was beautiful sea. And Leonard Cohen, and he's my favourite singer. He was the one that sort of brought me through my life, back then and it was. I didn't realise in the early days that I was Jewish, but I was obviously responding to that by the way I responded to his music. So one of his less known songs started playing, and of course I know the words perfectly of every song. So that was one way of showing, who I was, because, he is a very, very famous Jew who wrote the song Hallelujah, that's all around the world now. And but he also wrote a really good one that is also not well known, and that's called Repent. Repent, I don't know what they meant. Look it up if you don't know it. And that's, I think, where we are. After the Hallelujah, I believe we're now at that repentance, and everything that they are doing with the LGBT and all the rest of it is trying to take people away from their sins, as God says, that he is faithful. We all sin, but if we repent, acknowledge our sins before our Father, and sometimes our brothers and sisters, if we have sinned against them, that God is faithful, he will forgive us. But this whole world now, and all these people I'm talking about, through all the entertainment, through the news, through all this push to LGBT and all the rest of it, they are trying to convince the world, you have nothing to be ashamed of. Be proud of your sin, and so that is keeping people from God. Golly, I could just go on and on. It's just profound what God is showing to me. I hope you're with me. But so, okay, in the dream, I then, so I was singing Leonard's song, and there was this incredible, great big dolphin, and he was just dancing in the water, and I'm singing, and they are beside me, like there's a man beside me, and he's hearing me sing all the words perfectly, so he's getting a bit riled up because he doesn't know the words, and but this dolphin just came, and he's just like dancing with me, and he's coming right at me, and it's as if the dolphin and I were singing together, and it was just joyous and incredible, and they just lost it. They could not take it, and so up they went, and everyone left me left me alone, and as the last woman was walking up the stairs, she was about a third of the way up, and I have to get up and leave because the party's gone as usual, and she looks down at me and she says, thank you for coming. It was lovely to meet you. And I just said to her, you are, what was it? I said, you are foolish. You are foolish and a disgrace to my nation. And, I went. And that is where we're at. And while we continue not saying anything, like here in this book here, that these people, they get, in this book here, I actually wrote to the author, Diana Witchell. She actually talks about her father, but she talks about going and finding the relatives, and she talks about those towers, and that terrible day, and she talks about the protocols of the other word I can't say yet, ZION, and how ridiculous, it was, because as a journalist, they have been trained to know that all that was absolute nonsense, right? But if you look that up, and you look at a article called Atlantic, okay, so if you look up, protocols of what I just said, ZION, you will come across one debunking, thing. And this is how they do it, straight in your face, debunking the whole thing. And actually, while they're debunking it, they're laying out what it purports to say, which is that there is this conspiracy, that there are a few very rich JEWs taking over the world, buying everything. So everything they're saying is absolutely true, but they're just turning it into a huge joke. And at that point, you just look and think, okay, who are the richest men in the world? Who has just done this, Scorpio regime? Who gets all the money? Who owns, is it 85% of America? But they are all these rich unmentionables. And what does Hillary call them? And then in the same sort of vein, it's really bizarre, because if you carry on looking down, you'll see that the ones that they do mention, they mention Bezos, they mention all the obvious ones, but for some reason they don't mention Bill Gates. And then you'll go on to find other, articles there underneath it, showing that Bill Gates, because they're actually trying to distance him from Ghislaine Maxwell, with whom he has had photographs. And Ghislaine Maxwell's father, was the huge tycoon, the huge, newspaper tycoon, and but they're trying to say that he is not one of them. But his mother was a Maxwell, so it's really quite absurd the lengths they'll go to lie to. And just like in this book, she talks about how ludicrous it was, this protocols thing, but then she goes on to talk about give me a minute. That there are those who have put forward this absolutely outrageous claim that the Twin Towers was a plot by these people, and just to make it all seemed utterly ridiculous. But then later, a couple of pages later, she talks about meeting this Jewish cousin, who worked at the Towers as a stockbroker, right, and was told didn't go into work that day. So there was this story about, and a conspiracy theory spread around, which was obviously absolute lies against those persecuted people. Couldn't possibly be, but she actually goes for, a couple of pages later, actually says she goes to New York and meets her cousin, and who miraculously survived because he didn't happen to go to work that day. So tell me about it. Anyway, that wasn't what I wanted to talk to you about. Basically, I want to get back to Napoleon and how he thought he was going to bring the state of Israel, and the people of Israel. But when his uncle, so it says the cardinal, was also Napoleon's maternal uncle. At the time that Napoleon had brought together the Jews for the Sanhedrin in Paris, I attended dinner one day where I was to witness an astounding exchange. Cardinal Fesch rushed into the room with a very worried air about him that struck the emperor. "What is the matter?" he said. "What I have is easy to understand," said the cardinal. "And why?" retorted the emperor. "Do you not know," answered the cardinal, "that the scriptures foretell the end of the world when the Jews are recognized as constituting a nation?" I and the guests were inclined to laugh, but the emperor changed tone and seemed worried. He rose from the table, went to his study with the cardinal, where he remained. Okay, so he reversed what he was going to do because, of course, nobody wants to cause the end of the world. So this is what I'm getting at. So it just goes back to, Donald Trump and how the H-man also, he was the second one who they labelled Antichrist, who was also trying to do that with what he did, and he was, as I've shown in other videos, he was actually the first person to, to try and create, he sent them back to Israel, and the Germans from German Jews actually went there and they set up Haifa, so there was no way he wanted to harm them in any way, and he made everything possible for them to go. And you'll find all that out in that video that I have told you about. I'll just try and write it out. It's called Adolph, and the other one word, Adolph, the greatest story you never heard. Okay. By Dennis Wise, and it's incredible. I hope you can find that anywhere. Where am I going? How am I doing? All right, so while I was reading my little book here, after I saw that it was actually Paris where was the birthplace. Okay, so that's how it all spread out, that thingy. I was reading my book, and then, okay, can you see that? There was this amazing breeze from those gorgeous oak trees of mine, and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. It was on Donald's birthday last week, on his 77th birthday, and there was just an incredible breeze. It just lifted up those leaves, and one of them fell down onto this very page that was reading, and it speaks of that 2,500. This constant is incredible, and it's the measuring line. It talks about where the ark is, okay? It says, as the sun rises in the east, throwing the keys of the temple to the sun implies this direction. It is a remarkable story of the keys and the hiding of the ark are both connected to Jeremiah. Okay, this story is also significant metaphorically. The keys of the temple represent both the stewardship of the priests of God and the sacred knowledge embodied by the temple and its rituals. Okay, in the Talmud versions, the Levites or high priests climbed to the temple roof and threw the keys into heaven, from whence a hand caught them and it disappeared into the cloud. Okay, so I know you won't get this. It's going to be difficult for you to get this, but everything that I've shown you, so there was another page that I put a white camellia in when it talked about the cloud also. So I showed you the cloud in 2012. That was the return. Okay, but what I want you to understand, and I think I'll just finish it here because I know if it's too much for me, it's too much for you guys. Who was it? Who was the man who spoke out? Not only did he set up the temple, which is the temple of America, USA, which is the real, Zion in Jerusalem. But who was the man who actually proclaimed the Jews as a nation? Okay, and when I came across that, I actually believed it was the day that I found it, but I can't go into that because, but it's like about 5 years, I think, since he actually made that proclamation. And how did they treat him? Yes, Netanyahu, first person. As soon as Biden got in, he was the first person to will congratulate him. So nothing's changed, but as my dream says, and I think you can also find a quote from JFK. All this is coming out. So JFK, Senior, said, what were the words? He prophesied that that man one day would be. I can't think of it. Okay, so I dreamt. What a nuisance. So it was on the same speech, when he said about there's a plot in this country to enslave every man, woman and child. Oh no, it wasn't. It was in his diaries because he wrote it when he was quite young, and he said that because he studied the man quite a lot, and he said that there would be a day, when the hatred of him would be reversed and everyone would see, what he really was. Okay, so that is, Alex is trying to sort of start that. So here it is. And, okay, can you see that? I won't say it, but that was wearing a white coat walking into the clouds. And this is me, testimony to what the Lord has shown me. And being Eva Braun, I'm standing up for that husband also, and as I am for Donald Trump, and I hope you are too, in realising just who he is, but also that we are now at the time of the wrath. And I can even show you in here, if I could find it, scriptures, because the people that actually showed showed Napoleon who he was were the Jews, who they read it, they saw that he was the king of the north, and they read it and they showed him. So that's how he realised his destiny. And if you can get a chance to get this book, I've been reading it for there he is, bless him. Rest in peace. But it never ends. The wisdom of it never ends. And if I just went back to the night that I had, this, when I thought I saw this, and realised that it was the first dream that I had, where I went to a place called Sheffield, and a tall, godly man told me, to make sure I stopped into this place called Sheffield, where the women were very suspicious or religious, that they would pray for the place. And as I see that embryo, the embryo also looked like a woman's, mammary ducts, this spot, and just reaching out. And I realised that is how God is, and how we are all just part of this incredible blood supply. And when I think of Eric Clapton and what he went through, if he had this son, and he'd been in love with George Harrison's wife for 8 years, and he never, he was a drunk, and he was totally out of it on drugs most of the time. There were stories of him practically playing concerts lying on his back on stage, but he loved George Harrison's wife, and eventually they did get together, but they never had children. But in the meantime, he had a brief flirtation, an affair with another woman with whom he had a child. And he says, it was as if he didn't stay with the woman, and he said, and he neglected the child, and he said it was as if this child couldn't wait, because he tried to have children, and with George's wife, and hadn't. He thought it was as if this child just couldn't wait to get into the world. And then, of course, he wasn't in for long, was he? When Eric finally sort of pulled himself together a little bit, he went to visit him, and he wanted to sort of make up for the time lost with the child. I think he was about 4 or 5, and he was going to visit him. He was downstairs under the apartment building, and I think the maid had left a window open. It's like the ground floor, and the windows going down to the ground. I can't imagine that they could, safety would actually let them have a ground floor window. But the little child went running. He was so excited to see his daddy, and his daddy was downstairs, and he went running to the window and running down the passage, and he just ran straight out the window. Oh, so sad. And then, so from that, he started pulling himself together, and wrote Stairway to Heaven, and that also, just like Leonard's Hallelujah, has been such a huge thing, to bring people back to the world, to God, to knowing God. And, even now, like Eric has been one who has been injured by this thing, and so he is now really, because he nearly was paralysed, he was paralysed, couldn't play the guitar anymore, and so he's witnessing, he's speaking out. And that's the most important thing in our time here, even though it's frightening and they'll try and shut you down. This is the only chance that we have, and we have to speak out, and against all the lies. Everything that's happening in South Africa and New Zealand, it's happening here because the people, and I remember seeing a video by, what's his name, the guy who does God in a Nutshell, Trey Smith, and because he's from South Africa, and he spoke about this prophecy, South African prophecy, where because the blacks had just taken over, and the Afrikaans and they had just not stood up, and they said, we let it get too far. And now look what's happened. And that same thing is happening in New Zealand. We have let a lie be told, even though most of us know full well it's a lie. In New Zealand there were Celts here before the Maori, and just as it is, in Paris, if you look up in my book, it was the Celts. The Celts were there. They were the first Israelis. They were the first Jews, and they have spread out all around the world. And that's where we're at now. This is the joy of the redeemed of the Lord returning, which my boat, my ark prophesies, but there's just no way I can, get it all out. It's just been so extraordinary. But this week I have been, that song has just been, coming to me all the time, and they're singing, the redeemed of the Lord shall return and come to Zion with singing, and everlasting joy will be upon their head. So take heart if you are the redeemed, and because of these tribulations and because of these songs, and because of what is happening, so many people, the harvest is great, and in the Revelations it said, who are these in the white robes? Where do they come from? And the angel says, they are those who have washed their robes in the blood of the Lamb. They have made themselves white in the blood of the Lamb. And that, I believe, has come from the whole. I'm back to England again, same thing. Those songs, God speaks to us through music, and He is a song. He's the song of He's a song in our heart, and He just sends out this love to us, through the songs, through His servants, through singers like that who have to go through hell. It's only going through the presses of pain. This is one of the first sort of poems that I kept close to my heart when I was going through it all in my early days as a Christian. Out of the presses of pain cometh the soul's choicest wine, and without the eyes that have shed little rain will shed little shine. The eyes that have shed little rain can shed but little shine. And so just, I'm so blessed, but knowing that everything I've done, even if, I haven't done it the way of the church, I've done it because I'm a handmaid of the Lord, and I hope you feel it the same way too. And if you don't, get to know and call out to Jesus, to call out to God the Father, okay, through Jesus, what He did, and you do it too. So I hope that made sense. I know it was a lot, but would you believe it? I should show you in here, the song. It was just so wonderful. God has just shown me so much. The very words that I just sang to you are written in this book. Okay, the redeemed of the Lord shall return and come to Zion with singing. Okay, so bless you all in Jesus' name. I hope you're having a wonderful day. You see, it's a beautiful one from New Zealand. Okay, bye-bye.